This is Delicious Dignity, where we cultivate a self so potent, so clear, so vital, so truthful, that our life is all the more luscious for it. Let's call ourselves into being, shall we? Hello, lovelies. In the previous episode, in episode 40, we talked about what to do when your intuition felt blocked or you just couldn't hear it or just didn't feel accessible to you. In this episode, we're talking about what to do when you felt like your intuition was wrong, when you felt like your intuition led you astray. And of course, when you feel that way, you feel betrayed. You not only feel betrayed by yourself, you feel betrayed by God, you feel betrayed by the universe. And yeah, it comes with a whole bunch of really tearing apart sort of feelings, the kind of feelings that just make you feel like you're being torn apart on the inside. And those are perfectly valid. As with the previous episode, the feeling that comes when you think that your intuition is just not available to you is one of abandonment. And in this episode, the feeling that you feel is mostly one of betrayal when you think it was wrong. And so just like in the previous episode, we're going to go over a few concepts to help you understand why this happens. And then we're going to do a little bit of a diagnostic assessment on what really happened when your intuition went wrong. So the first thing I want to tell you, much like in the previous episode, is that we've been taught that intuition is this mystical thing. It's always there. It's always accessible. It's always flowing. And on top of that, we have this belief, this unspoken belief that your intuition is always right. It's always right. It can never be wrong. And in that statement lies two things that we have to question. First of all, we have to question the word intuition, and we have to question the word right. It's kind of like saying the pianist is always playing right. The doctor is always doctoring right. Something about that doesn't sound correct. It does not sound right, because intuition is a skill. And like any skill, you have to build the skill. It's not this mystical thing that's, always there and always accessible. It's a skill that you have to build. We all have the capacity to be a pianist or be a doctor, but what separates you from the pianist or the doctor is practice, is learning, is qualifications, is study. And skill comes from those places. In the same way that you wouldn't trust someone who just reads 3 pages about heart surgery and tries to perform heart surgery on you, so too you cannot expect that you walk into a spiritual bookstore, pick up a packet of oracle cards, and decide you're a psychic. It doesn't work that way, right? And I know you know this, but it needs to be said that intuition is a skill. Because when you feel betrayed by God, especially for those of us who struggled with spiritual depression, feeling betrayed by God comes easy. And that is not the place we want to hang out, because it's simply not true. It's the same thing as a pianist saying, oh, I messed up this one concerto, this one concert, and so therefore I've been betrayed by God. It doesn't work like that. And I do wish somebody had taught me this when I was a beginner, because it would have saved me a lot of self-doubt and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and just in general yucky feelings of not being good enough. And so the answer to this, when you feel like your intuition is wrong, if you are an expert or an advanced person in intuition and you just felt like your intuition stirred you wrong, just move on. Just move on. Don't dwell on it, because especially if the dwelling is going to make you anxious, it's not going to be constructive. You can do some assessments on what really went wrong, and what I'm about to tell you will help you do an assessment. But the ultimate goal is to move on. So you were not accurate. So you made a mistake. Fine, move on. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't throw out the whole concept of intuition and spirituality out the door just because you made a mistake. Okay, so for a beginner, if you can even get your intuition to be 30% accurate, that's good enough. That's perfect. At an advanced level, if you can get your intuition to just be 70% accurate, that's beautiful. Expect to make mistakes because you're learning. Intuition is a lifelong skill, and I'm not sure we ever reach an end point that says we're complete. The same can be said for any profession. If you look at any profession, imagine a doctor who says, oh, now I am a doctor. I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to know anything more. I don't need to practice anything more. I don't have to keep up with new technologies. I don't have to keep up with the pace of the world. I'm a doctor who's just a doctor, and I have no room for improvement. A doctor doesn't say that, do they? And neither should you when it comes to intuition. So I would say if you can get it to just about 70% accurate, that's great. The rest is God's problem. Just that 30%, just leave that to God. So now I want to come to what I said before. My intuition is always right, or intuition always has to be right. We have to question the word intuition and we have to question the word right. Let's start with like an analysis of what happened. We'll start with more beginner issues or beginner problems, and then we'll go into more advanced issues or advanced problems. So the first few things might be more on a beginner standpoint, and then we'll go to the advanced. So let's just analyze what happened, right? Number one, your intuition was wrong. You felt like it led you astray. What is intuition? And did you have enough practice in it? I want to tell you this story because to this day, I will never forget this story for as long as I live. I met this guy on Hinge when I was living in Seattle, and he was a therapist, and he was talking to me about spirituality. And because I was into that and I was talking to him about everything I do, and he goes like, yeah, I don't believe in that anymore. It really is a dangerous thing. And I was like, what do you mean it's dangerous? It's kind of the opposite of dangerous. And he goes, yeah, I once had intuition and it was just so wrong and it ruined my life and I never want to go there again. And I was like, what do you mean? Tell me what you did. And he said that he just came out of an ayahuasca ceremony and he got the intuition, air quotes, to move in with a particular roommate. And so he did, and it turned out to be a complete disaster. He didn't give me the details, but he said it was the worst time of his life, etc., etc. And so I asked him, I said, you came out of an ayahuasca ceremony and had an intuition? And he said, yeah. And I was like, how do you know that was intuition? Silence. And I was like, so then I was like, okay, maybe you've had intuitive experience before. Tell me about all your other experiences. And he goes like, oh no, until this time, I've never had intuition. So you're telling me this was your first time having what you think is an intuitive experience. You just came out of an experience that literally is designed to get you out of your mind. You had an intuition and you've never practiced before. And this was your first time, and you think that intuition is dangerous. What's going on here? And I remember I didn't even have many words to tell him, and he just looked at me blankly, like, no, this is what my intuition said. And I said, how do you know that was your intuition? You just came out of an ayahuasca ceremony. This was your first time, according to you, that you even accessed any intuitive information. How do you know it was intuition? And how do you imagine that you can just get intuition without any practice? And maybe this is not your story, but I want you to understand and I want you to hear the logic behind his conclusions. First of all, he imagined that because he had an ayahuasca ceremony, that meant he should be more intuitive or that he could access intuition. Because he can't access it normally, he has to do an ayahuasca ceremony. Secondly, his logic was that he actually had intuition because it was something he would have not thought about if he hadn't done ayahuasca. And thirdly, he was utterly convinced that it was dangerous because he did it one time and it didn't work, or it led him to disastrous results. There are so many assumptions here that he made that a lot of people make, and you probably made it too. First of all, are you confident it was intuition? And secondly, are you confident that you had enough practice? Okay, so intuition is like a skill. It's like anything, it requires sometimes daily practice. There was a time when I was doing readings for clients where it would take me about half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, to just get into a place where I thought I could be intuitive enough for my clients. This is when I first started. It would take me so much prep work, so much time of prep work to just get to a place where I could be intuitive enough for a client. Now, of course, it takes me seconds, if that. But that's because of practice. It's not because I'm the chosen one. It's not because I have some special gift that nobody does. It's because I've literally been doing this for over a decade professionally. I was doing this unprofessionally, or just for myself, before those 10 years. So do you see what I mean? Like, it's not about whether you can or cannot do it. It's about how well you can do it because of how much you've practiced. And there was a good amount of time when I didn't know the difference between intuition and anxiety, and intuition and just my mind just playing tricks on me. Well, I shouldn't say that. Your mind doesn't play tricks on you, but you know what I mean? Like, the part of you that's been conditioned, the part of you that has a big fat ego, that has all these opinions about so many things, I would get my intuition confused with that part. And that takes a lot of time to master, to know the difference between your mind's voice and your intuition's voice. Do you have enough practice? And did you actually access intuition? And I would say that if you've had no practice, and if you all of a sudden come out of a ceremony or come out of a psychedelic experience with all these intuitions, I would say proceed with caution instead of just going full frontal on what came out of these ceremonies, right? If you've had a lot of practice, then you've gone into one of these ceremonies and then you came out of it with some insights, that's a whole different ball game, right? Okay, so that's number one. That's analyzing it from is this intuition and do I have enough practice? Number two, did you have a question at all? Or did you ask the wrong question? A lot of times when we get an intuitive sense, it's after we've asked a question, because questions are portals. They open up a doorway in the psychic universe for your intuition to come through and give you answers. So a lot of people, when they ask a when question, it's a timing question, it's almost always wrong because it's impossible to do predictions like that. People are vast and deep and unpredictable. And that's why a lot of people get predictions wrong. Even if you go to a celebrated psychic, they get predictions wrong all the time, because predictions are not in any way anything to do with intuition. They're more to do with people trying to control their lives because they're anxious or they want hope. That's a completely different feeling from someone who wants truth. Do you see? Working from anxiety or hope is different from working from truth. So sometimes we ask the wrong questions and therefore we get answers that we can't interpret correctly. Sometimes, when I sit with clients, the questions are either too open-ended and have no focus, or they are very focused on when. When is this going to happen? When is this going to be available to me? As though you have no agency. And the best way I know to combat this is before you even access your intuition, you write the question down. You write it in all its specificity so that when you get the intuition, you know exactly the question you asked and what the answer is answering. And that will give you a good sense of how your intuition works, because over time it forms like a book of experiments. Hey, I asked this question, I got this answer, I followed this answer, this is what happened. For a beginner, that's really important. It's kind of like your personal book of scientific experiments on intuition. What was the question? What was the answer? What was the result? And over time, you get to know exactly how your intuition speaks to you. Because number three, when we're not clear with our intention, we ask a question that was not the question we actually wanted to ask. Because there were too many emotions, we were too conflicted, we were under the influence. And it happens a lot, when people access intuition. They thought they asked something that they didn't ask. Or their emotions were so high, or they were in so much anxiety that they couldn't even hear the answer when the question did come to them. This happens in readings with me all the time. The emotions are so high they can't hear the answer that I provide them. The thing to do at that time is not to ask your intuition, it's to first maybe do a nervous system reset. Maybe do a yoga pose or hold that pose for about 5 minutes. Some yin yoga always helps. Restorative yoga always helps to get yourself back to baseline before you even ask the question. Because otherwise, we will almost always confuse anxiety with intuition. This again goes back to practice. But the practice here is not just practicing intuition, it's practicing things that you need to do before you even do intuition. And again, this is something you'll only have to do in the beginning. Over time, you'll learn how to work with your emotions within seconds. But in the beginning, like I said, there were readings I needed to do that I would prepare for an hour. Because at the time I was dating a guy who was not exactly good for me, to put it mildly. And so a lot of the things he would do would trigger me. And so I was in such a heightened emotional state. It would take me an hour to calm down, to reset, to go into this very soupy, beautiful place to be able to cater to my client. So I knew that, right? Because I knew I had to work with my emotions before I go into my intuition. The fourth thing I've seen people do, they followed signs. And they think that something is a sign, that they should do something or they shouldn't do something. Now, a lot of times, this is a tricky situation to be in. Because unless you're intuitive enough, you can't distinguish the difference between a sign that's like, oh, follow this, versus a sign that's just a confirmation bias. Sometimes signs come up in your energy field as a way to show you what you are vibrating. It's just showing you who you are. It's kind of like a mirror. And other times, signs are there to, let's say, show you the way in a way, or because you asked for a sign, so you got the sign. It's a different, and this is going into more advanced territory, as you can tell. I wouldn't ask for signs if I was a beginner, unless I know how to interpret them, because the universe speaks your language. It knows how you speak, so it will always try to speak to you in a way in which you will understand. So you have your own symbol library inside your soul. Like a black cat to me is a sign of good luck. It's a sign of the goddess Kali by my side. That's what black cats would mean to me if I were to see one. It would not be a sign of bad luck to me at all. The symbol in my mind is very different than a symbol in your mind. And so the universe will speak to you in the way in which you will understand it. But sometimes, especially if you're really anxious or heightened emotion, you might misinterpret the sign, or you might misinterpret it as a sign to move ahead when it's really a confirmation of the energy that you're carrying. And so this is something that can be very tricky to distinguish. And you have to write down, like, this is the sign I got, this is what I did, this is how I followed it, this was the result. I think if you get nothing from this episode, it is to create a book of experiments where you've experimented with your intuition. And so you begin to understand the language of the world. I feel like I'm almost getting drawn into the book Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I feel like the way he explains following signs is beautiful and it's perfect. And it's a different way to look at how to follow signs and what those signs mean and how you can really benefit from them, provided you do it correctly. So ask yourself, if you followed a sign and you say, oh my God, it was the wrong thing, ask yourself, did you ask a question and then the sign came? Or did you have a really big emotion right before the sign came? Was it really a sign to move forward, or was it just a confirmation revealing to you, trying to help you understand what your energy was vibrating? I'll give you an example. One of the things that I did lately was to call my local congressman to protest ICE in Arizona. And I put a video up on this on my social media if you're curious on how to do this. The organization is called @5calls. They basically give you a script on how to call your congressman to protest against anything, whether it's the Epstein files and revealing more of what the Epstein files have, whether it's ICE, whether it's anything really. There's a way to do that where you can protest that in a legal way. So that's what I did one day. And I sat down and I made multiple calls about ICE to my different congressmen in Arizona. And after I did it, I just had this sense of fear, like, oh my God, I'm an immigrant in a sense. I mean, I am a US citizen, but I did immigrate. And I wonder if they're going to come now for me. I wonder if they're going to now attack me. I had this thought in my head. And I remember I walked out of my door. I got in my car to go get groceries. The second I turned round the corner outside my apartment, there's a cop car. Normally, a cop car would make me feel like, oh, they're just doing their patrols. This time, it made me feel like I was being watched. I was being followed. Then I turn another corner. I go down the street. I see another cop car. Now, the odds of having 2 police cars within a 1-block radius on 10 minutes after I made a call, it sounds like it's a sign like, oh my God, they're following you. Oh my God, bad things are about to happen, right? But when I sat with it and I really looked at what this was telling me, this was showing me how deeply the fear of being persecuted, the fear of being attacked by a government was in my system. And I needed to work on that. And even if it meant something different, it doesn't matter. It was showing me the amount of fear I was carrying. It was not a sign to get out of the country. It was a sign to address the fear I had in me because I had that much of it that I walked out of my apartment and here I am with these signs around me. And the funny thing is that particular cop car, normally, if I see them on that street, I just think, okay, they're just doing their patrols. But that particular cop car, I was going towards the grocery store and it went to the same area that I did. And I thought it was following me. My mind thought it was following me. There was so much anxiety around that. And then I sat with it and I was like, oh no, he's actually just doing patrols. He has no idea who you are. And I asked my intuition that question. That's what my intuition said. And it was like, this is just showing you your energy and what it's vibrating right now. So do you see the difference between a sign and not like a sign to proceed and a sign to just analyze what you're vibrating? Okay, I think I've made my point. Okay. The fifth thing, now we're going into advanced practices, okay? The fifth thing is maybe your intuition is not wrong per se. Maybe the thing you asked about isn't your forte. You don't have practice in that specific area of intuition. Let me give you an example. And when you come across this thing, by the way, take note of what it is, okay? Because there was this guy who got a reading from me, and whenever I was talking about his partner, because he was asking about his partner, I kept using the pronoun him. But it turns out his partner is a girl. It's a woman, and it's very much a her or she person. And I have known for years that gender is not my thing. I cannot intuit gender. I cannot understand gender. I do understand essences, but I don't understand gender on an intuitive level. When I'm in that space, I can't understand gender. So one of the things I do now is I just tell my clients up front, hey, I will almost always get gender wrong. But if I use a he or a she pronoun, it's really an indication of that person's essence in that moment of time as I'm reading them. So if I read him as a he, it's usually because they carry like a heavy, active yang energy. If I say she, it's usually because they carry a pretty strong yin receptive energy, intuitive energy. So just understand that it's not about gender, it's about essences. So I give out that disclaimer because I just know that it's not my forte. And I don't even want to practice to make it my forte because to me, gender is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's all about energy for me. So this is an example. So I wouldn't say that my intuition is wrong per se. I would just say that this is not my area of expertise. And honestly, I don't see the point in getting gender correct in a reading. I don't see the point of that. Now, for me, it's all about moving beyond labels. Whenever I'm in that place, it's moving beyond labels. Sometimes I go wordless because I have no words for what I'm feeling or sensing when I do my own intuitive work. It's just an experience. It's pure experience. I am beyond the mind, beyond labels, beyond words, beyond language. So what I've learned to do in sessions is to just describe energy as much as possible and not put a label on it. So I will not use pronouns as much as I can. Sometimes I slip up and I do use them. I will not use any kind of label unless absolutely necessary. Like this person is tall, this person is short, this person is left, I won't use labels. I will just describe the energy. And then the other thing that I wasn't good at is one time a client asked me to help them find a lost item that they had. And at the time they asked me, I was not good at finding lost items at all. I just couldn't reliably do it for them. And I said, listen, I'm so sorry to have wasted your time, but I'm pretty sure I have not practiced this. So I don't know if I can give you an accurate answer. Finding a lost item requires like a completely different intuitive skill. It's about latitude, longitude. It's about finding the exact location, what's around it, what's in it, where is it, can it be accessed, can it not be accessed? There's just so much that goes into finding something that's missing, whether it's a person or an object. I told her right from the beginning, and even she said, no, just try and let's see where it goes. And to this day, I don't know whether she found the object or not. And it was her engagement ring that she lost. But in that sense, I know for a fact that I am not good at finding lost items. However, I made a note of this. I made a note that I'm not good at finding lost items. And then I talked to my intuition and I said, do I want to develop this skill of finding lost items? Do I want to develop it? And my intuition said that, yeah, I think it will be fun for you and I think it'll be useful for you. And I said, yeah, I think I really do want to develop the skill of finding lost items and maybe even finding lost people. Maybe. Over time, I've started practicing. Whenever I lose things, which I lose things all the time, I've now started to ask my intuition, where is this lost item? And I will practice. And now I'm very good at reliably doing it for myself. But I do know that I am not at the level where I can reliably do it for clients. So if a client did ask me that question, I will say upfront that, hey, I don't think I'm going to get this completely accurately. And I may need you to work with me a little bit more than you normally would. But I will try if you'd like me to. But I know that I can't honestly say that I'm very good at this. So do you see, it's not about wrong. It's not that my intuition's wrong. It's that I haven't practiced this specific area of intuition. Now, to give you an example of what I am good at, so that you can see that, okay, this is what I have practiced. I'm very good at recognizing people's strengths. I'm very good at recognizing the potential of something. I'm very good at sort of root cause analysis. I'm very good at dealing with, shall we say, really negative energies, because those things don't bother me. Because my whole life, I've been practicing that. My whole life, whenever I look at someone, I can see their beauty, their potential, and I know now how to speak to them to drag it out. And I'm very good at handling darker energies because I've dealt with them myself my whole life. I've had practice in those areas. So for me, that comes easy now. But if I had to develop a whole new intuitive arena that didn't involve recognizing somebody's strengths, recognizing their potentials, recognizing the darker forces they may be under, then I would need to practice that particular area. For example, finding lost items. Does that make sense to you? Was your intuition really wrong, or did you not have specific practice in that specific area of intuitive ability? This is the same thing. Let's go back to the doctor analogy. The reason I keep bringing up the doctor analogy is because you're kind of a spiritual doctor. Whether you're just doing it for yourself or other people, that is what you're doing. So look at a doctor, right? How many specializations are there just within the medical field? You can be a dentist, you can be an anesthesiologist, you can be a nurse of some kind, you can be a brain surgeon. There are many specialties. And each of them has their own thing that they're very, very good at. In the same way, look at intuition the same way. Intuition has many, 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 many different specialties. And it's a question of, did you practice that particular specialty of intuition before you determined that your intuition is wrong? Make sense? Makes sense. I've belabored this point enough. Okay. Number 6. Was it really wrong? Was your intuition really wrong? Are you confident that it was wrong? Are you confident that it was inaccurate? What are the proof points to show you that it was indeed inaccurate or wrong? List those out and you might find that actually you don't really know that if it was wrong or right. It just maybe didn't give you the result you expected it to give you, but maybe it wasn't about wrong or right. Maybe it just was what it was and you can't even determine whether it was wrong or right because there's no proof point for it. Maybe you're just saying it's wrong because it didn't follow your expectations. And number 7, did you do your energy cleansing work or your energy release work? And this is an advanced practice because I feel like the more advanced we get as intuitives, whether we're doing it personally or professionally, we need more energy release work, not less. because now we're sort of very much in the domain of the psychic realms. And when you're in the psychic realms, you need more energy cleansing work, not less. I think we think that the more advanced we get, the more we sort of can just be immune to these things. And that is partially true. We're immune to the things we didn't used to be immune to before. But now that we've raised the stakes are higher. So the things that we're dealing with are on a much different level than what they were when you first started. This also relates to the corollary, I can't pronounce that word. I think you know the word I'm saying. The side note to this, the footnote to this is also, if you've done too many readings for yourself or for other people, that's where you also need some cleansing. Did you do that cleansing work? Too many readings, one after the other, can really invite a lot of energies that you may not want to deal with. And then if you did a reading for yourself or for someone else, it can cloud the judgment and it can cloud the perception. The other thing is, maybe you tuned into frequencies that were dense, not because they are bad vibe or you're low vibe or whatever, but you tuned into those frequencies because you needed to deal with them. Like, for example, with me and doing all of the protesting and the reading of certain things that I needed to read in order to do the work I need to do. For example, right now I'm reading a lot about patriarchy and how it's evolved over time. And it's a very dense subject and it's horrible to read about. And so that energy can get dense very quickly. It doesn't mean that I avoid it completely because I'm bypassing, but it also means that I need to recognize that it's a dense energy and I can't stay in that for too long. So I do need to do my energy release work, my energy cleansing work every time I engage with it. So I don't avoid it, but I also don't pretend like it doesn't matter, like it doesn't affect me. Do you see? I think you see. Okay, so these are the 7 different areas that you can analyze and see where exactly your intuition was wrong. Make a note of it, make your experiment book, write it down, and then move on. Assess and move on. Don't make it reliant on your self-worth. Don't make it reliant on the fact that you've been betrayed by God. That's absolute bull. You have not been betrayed by anybody. You just need more practice, or you need to look through the other 6 things that we talked about. You may have lost this particular battle, but that doesn't mean you've lost the war. Why am I using this analogy? I don't know, but you know what I mean? Okay, you lost this particular battle. It was a tiny battle. You will still win the war. You don't have to feel like you are wrong inside or you're bad or, you did something so horrible that it makes you unworthy of accessing correct intuition or, whatever your mind may be saying to you to justify you leaving intuition entirely or thinking that you're not good enough to access intuition. But by all means, if you want to give spirituality a break because the betrayal just felt like it was too much, go ahead and do that. You don't need to do spiritual work. But I'm just saying that these are the ways in which you can analyze what really happened so that we're really clear on the truth of the matter and not your self-doubt, It's truth over self-doubt. Okay. Like I said in the previous episode, I so enjoyed giving you what I wish someone had given me when I first started. It just feels good. I think you can hear the joy in my voice throughout this whole episode because I really feel like I gave you gifts in this episode and in the previous one. I gave you a really sacred gift. So yeah, if you have more questions or, something I didn't address, maybe I didn't address it at all, or I didn't finish addressing it in this episode, please let me know because now you can text me. I won't have your number, don't worry, but you can text me directly from your phone. The way to do that is in the description and you can shoot me a text. And I just thought I wanted to make it easier on you to contact me if you wanted to and share your thoughts. And so I thought this would be a nice thing to do. If not that, you can always email me, dilshad@dilshadmehta.com, or you can go to my Instagram, Delicious Dignity, and you can message me there and let me know. This particular time, surprisingly, I didn't want to end the episode with my own blessing. For whatever reason, Rumi popped into my head, and it was that line, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I will meet you there. And I heard that phrase in my mind This is me showing you what intuition is like in real time. I heard that phrase in my mind when I was thinking about what blessing I want to give you for this episode. And then I heard the phrase and I said, something about this does not apply to this episode. This is not what I wanted. But maybe it's the poem that it comes from. Maybe it's that poem that is more relevant. So I look up the full poem, and it's called A Great Wagon by Rumi. And there was a particular paragraph that actually fit this episode. So see how funny intuition is. It didn't lead me to the exact thing. It led me to the thing that would help me know the full thing, you know? So sometimes it's just a signpost on the way to something else. Okay, so this is the blessing I actually want to end with. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill, where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. I would love to kiss you. The price of kissing is your life. Now my loving is running toward my life, shouting, "What a bargain! Let's buy it." Okay, my lovelies. Until next time, much love to you. Bye.